social media was supposed to bring us together. It was supposed to connect us more. It's done the complete opposite. That's why I'm a big advocate on teaching the next generation. And that's what the NextGen movement is all about, is teaching the next generation, things like communication, interpersonal skills, business, finance, real estate, these core topics that aren't taught in schools, but they need it at an age so that they can grow into the adults that they need to be, the next leaders of our world. But for us now that are in the professional world and we're out there, doing our real estate deals and we're, going out raising capital, this is now up to us to put the time into that personal development. So don't think of it as in going to a conference to network or to go learn. You're going there to really embrace personal development for yourself to level up. And that's gonna have to be with people. So you might as well get good at people.
Hi, everyone on LabCoats. This is Alvin Tapia, and today our guest, really thankful to have him on board, is Jay Dhahan. And Jay is the founder of NextGen Movement. He has quite a bio, and I'll give you just some cliff notes on Jay's bio. Jay is he's a serial entrepreneur, a Neuro-Performance advisor, real estate developer and investor, and the founder of NextGen Movement. Jay's a real estate investor and commercial city developer with a six-figure portfolio. And his mission is building emerging marketplaces like Calgary and Tampa. Over the last decade, Jay has spent millions on his personal development and education, learning from legends like Tony Robbins, Cardone, John Maxwell, and Richard Dolan. Thank you for being here. And today's topic is networking, right? That's your wheelhouse. That's something that you have done really well at. And we had talked earlier before we went live, is especially coming out of this COVID environment, networking, to say came to a crashing stop would be an understatement. And help us out, Jay.
Absolutely.
Walk us through what you're seeing now.
First and foremost, Alvin, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the live stream today. It's interesting, even just hearing my own bio coming from you, a lot of people are always asking, what do you do? What do you do? It's not really what you do, it's who you are. And that's the most important thing. So it's a matter of all this fanciness, but at the end of the day, and I'm going to start this entire kind of framework with, a lot of people think money is everything. And then you get smarter and you say time is everything. But when you get really to it, it's about people being everything. So just even hearing the bio as a kind of a trigger for me was just understanding that when we're connecting with people, and that's what this is going to be premised all around, especially with the COVID era coming out of that, and understanding the game of real estate and really putting this all together through communication, is that you get to start to understand people, even the fact that I'm on this call right now. So I just want to first and foremost say appreciate that. And going to the point and the question that you have, it's interesting to see this, because over the last couple of years of connectivity, I'm a big believer of communication and conversation. This is something that the world is now lacking. And going back to the people being everything, is the connection with people, the real connection. And when you have something like COVID that completely separates us, isolates us, and does the kind of whatever toll it did on all the people around us, coming out of that is kind of interesting, because it's a new era that we're living in now. Yes, we're in the digital age, but it's more important than even just the digital age. It's about still bringing the fundamentals of connecting. Being on a call like this, that's why we're on Zoom and we're on live streams now versus, just phone calls. So now adapting to the new culture and being able to connect with people, I think is definitely going to be the key moving forward out of this pandemic.
Yeah, and like you're saying, connecting, because now, would you agree that the last couple of years, people are now equating, well, I texted them, we can do transactions that we have been able to maneuver using texting and things, using that technology, but is texting really connecting, right? What do you say to that?
Absolutely. Well, I always talk about communication, right? Communication is separated into three separate categories. You have body language, which is 55% of communication. This is physically what you're seeing my eyes, you're seeing my hand motions, you're actually feeling the energy. 38% is the nonverbals. This is the tonality, the pitch, the volume, the duration, to put character to your voice. And then you have 7%, which is just mirror the actual language. So when you're talking about texting and instant messaging, you look at it from 7% of actual communication versus the 93 when you can actually do something like a voice note or do something like a video call or be in person, which is I think the best one. And I'm still a big believer of that. You know, living out in Florida for the last year, it's been interesting to see how they reacted to the pandemic and how their real estate markets are flourishing. Places like Tampa, as you mentioned as well too, you know, are really growing. And it's because they still connected people together. They realized shutting down people would be shutting down everything. The business, the economies, everything was going to crash if people went home. So that was kind of interesting to see that kind of culture change versus Canada and the way that Canada is kind of coming out of this pandemic.
Yeah, so it's interesting that Tampa has done so well, and why we leverage the technology, i.e. Zoom, what we're doing right now, that could only get you so far. You know, there comes a point where you need to be, as we call it, belly to belly with people to really experience and have that true connection. Now, when it comes to networking for realtors, I know many times they hear the word networking and they want to have an aneurysm. It's like, oh my gosh, the thought of going out to some event and networking with people is the last thing they want to do. They don't know anybody. They might even have anxiety for that mindset, right? Could you speak to that as far as what networking, when it comes to, I don't want to network with other competitors. They're just my competition. They work for XYZ real estate. These people, why do I want to network with those people? Could you speak to that, Jay?
Absolutely. I think it's the perception, right? It's the perception of, again, the conditioning that we've been brought up on, right? Networking, when the term networking comes out, it actually stems fear. So with my studies in neurology and understanding neuro-performance strategies, you start to map out the thought patterns that people have. So networking, you know, when I first figured out that public speaking was the #1 fear, death was #2. I was like, public speaking outbe death. So you would rather die than to get on a stage?
Yeah.
So what we're now doing is that we're associating that with even networking because it's like, it's going to be awkward. Fear of rejection. What if somebody doesn't communicate well? I don't know anybody there. You're creating these limiting beliefs in your head already by just using the terminology, the linguistic networking. You know, that's why I like to say connect working or connecting. I kind of, you know, my coach helped me come up with connectworking, but, you know, just connecting with people, because if you start to go in as, and I always say this, intention is everything, right? If you know what your intention is going to an event or even going out, you know, out on a night out at the town, and you're trying to find the girl at the bar, or you're at an event and you're trying to, you know, network, the intention is the most purest thing. So if you're going there just to connect, to find a new friend that can help you, you know, just be able to create that energy in your life, from that, you can be able to now create a more established relationship that may land into an investor that you're raising capital from, or somebody that you want to do a deal with, or you do end up taking the girl on a date. You know, it just goes back to that intention of that connection that you want to make.
Yeah. And I'm sure people would be thinking, all right, Jay, so what's a good little icebreaker? I'm invited to an event. I don't know a soul. What's a good little icebreaker as I go get my drink and I'm just standing around all by myself holding up the wall? What kind of conversation could I have with somebody where I might be able to have a genuine connection?
Absolutely. And first and foremost, like I attend a lot of networking events, and I'll say the first question that I get asked the most, which I don't like, is what I kind of started this conversation with, which is, what do you do? Like, avoid that at all costs. I just want to say that right away. It just, you know, it's not really about what people do. And when you get to that core, yes, it's awesome because people get into that comfortable, okay, this is what I do. I'm a realtor and I do this, like, and it's confident. But to really break the ice with people, get to know them. Use something like I always like to say, situational factors. So when you're at an event and you're sitting there or you're standing there, you're getting some coffee, use the coffee as a reference. Wow, this coffee, I have to admit, this coffee is actually pretty tasty. I didn't think this, you know, at this conference it was going to be good. Use something to open up a spark with somebody else. Instead of just a, hey, how are you? How's your day going? How's the weather? These kind of openers are so generic now. And I hear it all the time when I say, hey, how are you? And they're like, good. How are you? Good. And it's like, now I've changed my language to being like, fantastic, phenomenal, amazing. Because it creates, you can see that in somebody else's energy when you use that language, it kind of opens it up. And if you don't even have the confidence in order to walk up to somebody, that's a little bit different, but you're still at the event. So instead of being at the event, trying to trip your own mind out, going like, how am I going to approach that person? What should I say? How should I say it? Give yourself one of these and say, you know what? Well, we had enough confidence to get to the event. Be proud of that. And that's what fuels more confidence for you to be like, you know what? I'm here. It's all good. I'm just going to go sit down and enjoy my coffee by myself. And all of a sudden somebody might just walk up to you now. And then you start to actually manifest that energy. So it seems quite like simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. And these principles of being able to connect with people is what this world really needs. Social media was supposed to bring us together. It was supposed to connect us more. It's done the complete opposite. That's why I'm a big advocate on teaching the next generation. And that's what the NextGen movement is all about, is teaching the next generation, things like communication, interpersonal skills, business, finance, real estate, these core topics that aren't taught in schools, but they need it at an age so that they can grow into the adults that they need to be the next leaders of our world. But for us now that are in the professional world and we're out there, doing our real estate deals and we're, going out raising capital, this is now up to us to put the time into that personal development. So don't think of it as in going to a conference to network or to go learn. You're going there to really embrace personal development for yourself to level up. And that's going to have to be with people. So you might as well get good at people.
And there has to be, would you agree? There has to be a goal in mind, like you said, because the go-to question, Jay, is always, so what do you do, right? You have your coffee and like, okay, so what do you do? Well, I'm a realtor. What do you do? Well, I'm a realtor. Well, what area? Well, I'm in this area. Well, how about you? I'm in the same area. And then there's that awkward silence, like, oh, okay, so we've kind of limited that. But on the connection part, I know for myself, this little device right here, when I'm meeting with somebody for coffee, I ask them respectfully, would you mind turning it to airplane mode, whatever, and then face down at the, at a Starbucks and just say, now let's have a conversation, unless you have kids that, it's very rare that the house is going to go on fire in the next 30 minutes that you're having coffee with somebody. But yeah, the social media thing that you said, it has made us less social. It seems like when you go to the airport, I mean, when you fly, when you're sitting at the airport, Jay, how many people are willing to have a conversation with you that are next and across? You just look around and everybody's like this.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you break the ice there? That could be an opportunity to have a conversation at the airport waiting for your flight.
For sure. Even just addressing back to the realtor thing of, I'm a realtor, you're a realtor, be creative with your questions. Go up to somebody and say, hey, listen, oh, you're a realtor? Interesting. If you could invest in any place in the world right now, where would it be? Start to gather different types of, where would you want to travel to? Get different types of insights from them to really understand personality, more so than what your objective is to find somebody to do business deals. So that's just something quick that I want to give there. In terms of airports, so first and foremost, like, it's crazy because I do this challenge. I give myself a challenge. Every airport I go to, I have to put 10 smiles on 10 faces. And I do this. It doesn't necessarily mean having to have the communication with them or even a conversation. I'll sometimes just, like the lady that's working at one of the little counters, I'll just give her a smile and she'll smile back. But it's so cool to see this because I see it at restaurants all the time. I see couples going on dates and they're on their phones. I'm like, what's the point of going on a date? I see families now doing that where it's just like the whole family. Come on, guys. Yeah. I do something funny. Just on a side note here is when I go out with my boys, we do a boys' night and I have two phones and I put them down in the middle of the table, right at the table. And I say, guys, stack them up. First person to touch their phone pays the bill.
Oh, I like that.
Like, now, how's your day going? How you doing? And then we get to actually have a chat. But, when it comes to airports and you see people that are constantly on their phones, it's hard to break that ice with people because people are kind of restricted now, with this whole kind of, I would say, social distancing and, just kind of space and having your own bubble and kind of that culture that's been created now. It's interesting to see that in my generation and my upper generation to adopt that more. The younger generation isn't thinking like that. They just went back to normal. Like, yeah, they had to get off school for a bit and stuff. So when you're seeing younger people, it's almost easier, but it's more intimidating because it's like that young person is just on their phone. Like, they're so glued to their phone. And we have a stereotype of these young people where it's like that they're just busy on their phone, but they're actually the ones that actually are more conditioned to being like, hey, what's up? How's it going? So, using age as an interesting key point. Yeah. And again, like when you're at the airport, airports are amazing. It's simple icebreakers of just, where are you traveling to? Oh, that's amazing. I've never been there before. And use active listening. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth. My mom always taught me that growing up. And it was just listen. Sometimes we hear a lot of stuff, but we don't listen. So when you start to listen to people and you kind of, okay, nice, interesting, and be genuinely, wanting to. If your intention, like I said at the beginning, was intention is everything. Intention stems from the initial thought. And if you can get back to the initial thought and get that clear, your trajectory becomes clear in the connection that you want to make with whoever it is.
Yeah, that's just so important, because management, all of us that are in sales, management, it's ingrained that the purpose of networking is to get some leads, to go to this event, connect with some individuals in this profession with the mindset you're going to get leads from them, right?
Yeah.
And that is like the focus. But in looking at your bio and everything else, and the way we stage the title, relationships, right, that can be built at these events.
Yep.
And being intentional in that I'm going to go and build a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you said a moment ago, as far as being sensitive to people, I'm still finding myself, when I'm getting coffee, the person in front is standing 6 feet away from the person in front of them. So I want to be respectful. And my gosh, I've made the mistake of maybe being 3 feet from somebody in front of me, and they're looking at me like I've got two heads, like, have I lost my mind? Right. I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'm sorry, and back up. And in networking events, there are still some people, Jay, that I go to shake their hand and they're just kind of, it's okay, and how do you maneuver through that stuff?
I think it just comes down to who you are as a person and what the actions you make. You shouldn't be restricting yourself, but you should always be respectful. So, being respectful and honoring rules that are in place, absolutely, I get that. But, going out there and sticking out your hand, that's what it's all about. If the person doesn't want to, that's not on you. And this is what we do sometimes as humans. And the human psychology behind this is really, oh, shoot, I messed up. I should have done something different. And we're always our biggest critique, so we're like, oh, maybe I should have stepped back a little bit because they kind of looked at me weird. But instead of doing that, just be who you need to be, respect the rules, but kind of go in with that energy of how you want to what you actually want. Again, going back to the intention. What is the intention of that? If you're going to a networking event and you're going to be restricted to shaking people's hands, that's a you problem. You shouldn't be at the event. You know what I mean? This is the whole point. Virtual event, sure. So again, going to understand people's intent of them being an event and not wanting to shake hands is showing a lot about that person. So now, do you really want to connect with somebody that's having a bit of a conflicting thought pattern of wanting to go to a networking event but not being able to actually engage in the networking event? That's in my mind, a disconnected person. It's not really necessarily somebody that I want to interact with. And I'll give you a funny story here is, about relationships, building relationships through even networking events. I'm a part of the 10X culture, if you're familiar with Grant Cardone and all this amazing stuff that he does. And his wife, Elena, throws this amazing event called 10X Ladies. Now, I'm a single man in Florida, I dress decently well as well too. So I roll up 3-piece suit to a woman-only event.
Oh boy.
I'm there by myself, solo mode, and I have all these women, and I love interacting and just connecting with people. And so Jay, what brings you here? Who are you here with? That would be the go-to question, right? Right. I'm I'm by myself. They're like, you're solo? You're just literally here by yourself? And I was like, yeah, I'm here to find a wife. And I would just smile, and they would just crack up about it. They'd be like, "Are you kidding?" And I'm like, "Well, what better room to find a 10X lady than in 10X Ladies, And it was my going joke, and that was my opener. And then kind of getting to understand. Listen, I'm here because I want to actually learn from y'all women. I want to be a better gentleman, and I'm helping now the younger generation become gentlemen. So I want to learn from you ladies to understand now how to really be able to get your minds." Your brilliant creature minds that we love so much, and bring that into a reality for my, and that now stirred up a real conversation, because now they understood the intention behind it. I had the fun joke of finding a wife. Then I went to the actual context, but then truly the content came from them providing me now information. And I ended up getting some amazing leads out of that, some coaching clients out of that. I also got some partnerships that are now helping me with a whole different school, like a school program that we're working on now. And it was all just because I went in with the intent of, I just want to learn from women. I just want to be a better man by learning from women. So leads and all these things, especially at networking events when it comes to real estate, I feel real estate is very interesting because it's such a cutthroat game, but it's also everywhere. Like everyone is involved in real estate in some capacity, which means it's always a great topic to be discussing. It's always an interesting thing, not to keep it too generic, but be creative. Like if you had $1 million right now in your hand, what would you invest in? And see what they would say. Is it, I'm going to buy my first investment property, or is it going to be like, oh, perfect, it'll add to the pot? You start to understand and measure through qualifying questions very quickly that, is this person somebody that I can actually do business with, or is it just going to be maybe a social interaction? And differentiating that at the very beginning through qualifying questions, I think, is the most powerful way to build relationships in a networking scene like that.
Let me ask you something, Jay. Is it a good idea, have a premeditated number in mind that says, okay, tonight, I hope to make X amount of connections and give ourselves some kind of a goal? Is that even a good idea? Because what if you end up spending half the nights just speaking to one person? What would be a good suggestion for someone going in? They're not the most outgoing person, but they legitimately want to engage with some people. What would be some good fundamental things that?
I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand. When you start to put, again, extra psychologically, you start to say, look, I need to connect with 20 people at this event. You're putting also a bit of a psychological pressure on you to being able to actually go and connect with 20 people. And that's now leading your thought patterns to start thinking, okay, that better be like profitable now. So I have to be out of 20 people that I connect with. Hopefully I can get 3 of them and then they can be clients. And then, so now you're ruining away from the intention of what you actually want to do, which is just connecting with people. So that's the thing. However, holding a target like that at a minimum level, just saying like minimum, I just need to make sure that I get about 3 contacts. Setting an achievable goal, but just like minimum. But I'm a big believer of energy. So I like to just connect with energy. I like to go into rooms and just kind of feel it out, and things come my way and I go that way. And I don't really set myself those kind of things. This one night I was in Tampa, and there was a nice little bar and restaurant, and I finished my day. I was sitting down there and I ended up just getting into some cool conversations. I ended up being there for like 7 hours, I think, like that. It was crazy. Sitting at a bar for like 7-8 hours. I put in a shift with the bartender. But the next morning, I had to do follow-ups. I did follow-ups for all the contacts. And when I connect with somebody, here's a masterful technique, by the way. When you connect with somebody, get their number. Once you have their number, you take a selfie with them and you send them the picture. That's one of the number one techniques that I do. And like, so now I'm at this bar, I'm connecting with people, I'm taking selfies with them, I'm sending them the photos, I'm sending everything. The next morning, I ended up having to follow up with 72 people.
72
people. In about a 7 to 8 hour span, sitting at a bar.
Okay, so now, Jay, you're talking to a guy who does not do selfies. I do video, but a guy who does not do selfies. So now you've given me a task.
There we go.
I am not comfortable with, just being honest right now. But what a unique thing. So real quick.
Now, you bring up a good point there, where you said stepping out of that comfort zone. Because I think that's what it really takes to connect. To find the meaningful connection is going to have to be stepping out of that comfort zone. It's going to have to do something that is awkward or weird, because that is what's going to produce the result. So I love how you just mentioned that.
Yeah. Do me a favor, Jake. Define a contact a contact versus a lead. Give me your definition of what is a contact to you? Because you use that word a few times now.
Yeah. Contact is digital entry. So a contact means like, we've gotten to a certain level of our conversation where you feel comfortable enough to give me your phone number, so we can remain connected.
Okay.
Whereas a lead would be on the other side of things, where you've now gone through enough conversation and also qualified them. Going back to the sales process, you've qualified them to be somebody that's in your scope of what your ideal client is. And if they've check marked certain boxes, they go into a lead. So lead versus contact. And then that, again, from the contact perspective, that is kind of, it gets nurtured to either be a social interaction or eventually a lead. But if you can qualify within that first conversation and you are going in for that business, some people, I talk to people, I'm just talking about life, just in general. Some people I can qualify them just by understanding their way of they speak. that I can be like, okay, this is actually a potential client. So now my verbiage changes. I go more for my qualifying questions. I go more for really pinpointing, is this person somebody I can work with? And now I need to schedule a follow-up call and go through the actual sales process with this person because my value can be added to this human. So that I think would be the differentiator between lead and contact for me.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. One thing that I know many people on this call have experienced most recently is, so I'm in the real estate industry as a realtor, and my phone has been blowing up with calls from various lenders, right? Lenders that I haven't heard from since pre-COVID until this crisis, right? So there's that dilemma. Can you talk to let's just say it's a lender, or it's a homeowner's insurance agent going to an event that they know going in, I'm sure, because we defeat ourselves, I feel like, I'm sure they already have their favorite homeowner's insurance agent. Like, why am I going, right? Could you speak to what do we need mentally if I'm a homeowner's agent going to an event where it's possible they already have their favorite homeowner's insurance agent? How am I going to break the ice with these people?
So just to kind of put this in perspective, it would be something that Simon Sinek shared, and it was the circle theory. People don't buy what you do. They far often buy how you do it. They buy why you do it. So as much as we have, competition is very healthy. So even the comment that was made earlier about, like, I'm a realtor and they're a realtor, that's my competition. Having competition means there's a market for the product that you sell. So competition is a very healthy thing, because at the end of the day, it goes back to that, what I just said. Why is the most important thing. People are buying you. It doesn't matter about the company representation. Yes, that stuff can matter in terms of facts and figures and features and benefits, but intention of the feeling of how they actually want to work with someone, a human being, is more important. And that's why when I see, in my coaches charging hundreds of thousands of dollars for their coaching, hour sessions that are $25,000 an hour. It's incredible. John Maxwell charges, I think, $125,000 an hour for his keynote speaking. And when you start to see that, you see, what's the value that I'm contributing into the situation? So if you're a homeowner insurance agent and you're walking in and you're looking, okay, they already have their thing. You've already kind of, again, how you said, you kind of already setting yourself up for failure, because you've already now you created that limiting belief in you. It's like, well, they probably are. No, salespeople kill sales. You have to understand that, right? Like, you have to understand, again, no, it's my job and opportunity now to actually provide immense value for my ideal clientele. And if I can do that, I've done my job. And if they understand that, they'll sign with you.
Yeah, and I feel it, just experience and doing it for so long, there's the defense mechanism that we have, right? And there's the fear of having to defend ourselves. I know if I say this, they're probably going to tell me. And one of the biggest comebacks is, well, what makes you different, right? What makes you different, Jay? You're your homeowner's insurance guy. Why should I change? What makes you different? That's that thought process that I think keeps us from speaking, right? Is it?
And it's like having your value add, of course, because that's going to be created, but even just your word track. Like, one thing that I do say to my clients, and this is a promise and a guarantee that I make to my clients, is that no one, you can go find other coaches, you can go find neurologists, Neuro-Performance agents. Nobody's going to work as hard for your success. Nobody's going to care as much for your success. That's my differentiator. Because there's so many products and services and programs and courses and all this stuff that's online nowadays, but you get me now. I want to work with you directly. And that's why my clients see the most amazing results, because I work with them one-on-one. When people told me one-on-one coaching is not scalable, you got to do courses, you got to do online, you got to do this. I said, listen, the most effective way that I can connect with a human being is working with them one-on-one, mapping out their mind, understanding exactly how they think, and those limiting beliefs that we create is what really kills us. Because we sit there and we go, I don't know. It's that teeter-totter thinking, the devil and angel on your shoulders, so to speak. What that actually is decoding the subconscious mind. You look at it as 3 levels of thoughts, and I'll quickly brief this. Is level 1 is your presence conscious. So picture it like driving a vehicle. Your conscious mode, level 1, is in driver's seat. So when somebody cuts you off and you get angry, you're in level 1 mode. Oh my God, this guy, you're blaring, you're swearing, you're doing this. Level 2 version is you sitting in the passenger seat now, looking over at yourself, going like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Are we going to crash into him? Are we going to call the police? Like, what are we supposed to do? Come on, like, we're okay now. Like, that is what we do with the devil and angel every single day, thousands and tens of thousands of times a day. But the most important part is when you do full disassociation, and the version of you that's now sitting in the back seat with your arms up like this, going like, look at Tweedledee, trying to explain to Tweedledum that we're angry right now. Come on. There's so much more that we need to be doing. And that's the controlling of emotions. And when you can start to understand emotional capacity, that allows you to start outbeating those limiting beliefs of, well, what if they already have an agency? What if, how am I different? That's a self-confidence thing more so than it is the product now. Because you know what your product can deliver. You know the facts, features, benefits. You know exactly how to get it's going to provide the coverage for the homeowner to get the insurance claim. You know how to set up the policy. You know how to underwrite the deal. All that stuff is the technical jargon that's going to make sense. But people aren't going to buy on that because they already understand that. What they're going to buy is you and the way that you now present that and build the relationship with them. So in this era, and I kind of want to just finish with this, is in this era that we're living in where we have been so disconnected with people, the only way to reconnect is going to be stepping out of that comfort zone, but it's going to be understanding relationships are everything and going in with that intention for relationships, especially in the game of real estate, where the trillions of dollars that are now being passed to the economy in the next 5 to 10 years. Real estate is going to now go to a whole different scale for younger minds that are getting involved, but also people that are just transitioning through now that want to kind of offload, onload everything. So right now is the most opportune time to be connecting with people, because it's not what you know. It's not even who you know anymore. It's who knows you. So getting out there now and being able to get your face out, to get on social media, sure, all that kind of stuff is awesome. But it's the actual conversations you're having one-on-one with people for them to be a testimonial now of like, you know what? I had a conversation with that guy and it was pretty cool. That's the value you want to be able to create. And that can lead into so much more of a sale or a client or whatever you need, a vote, whatever you need them to actually, purchase or click at the end.
Yeah. So here's a real nuts and bolts question, is because we're mindful that this upcoming year might be a little bit more challenging than these last couple of years. We read up on it, we see what economists are saying, and we might be in for an interesting year of 2023. There are going to be networking events, opportunities, right? And there might be less of them, there might be more of them, and they might be just right here in our own backyard. The possibility of maybe more than one in a week. What do you say to, well, I went to one this week already. I was like, I'm just going to do one a week. What would you say to that, Jay? In what we're going into, the kind of a climate we're walking into, what would you say as far as events that are available to us here in our own backyard? What should our attitude be?
Well, first and foremost, it's just, connecting people. So take the time and effort to go, make it a spouse thing. Take your spouse with you, make it a fun date night. Like we don't need to create this into it. Like, this is like work. Should I do it once a week? Is there going to be two? Look at different events that are happening. What interests you? Sometimes it may not even be, in the industry that you're in. Taking the time, I've been living in Florida for a year, so it's kind of hard for me to even answer that question right now because we have been just completely open. There's been events, there's no social distancing. It's completely just open. And that's just the way that their culture was there. And, understanding that events are always possible. It's always constant motion. You're always trying to, again, be out there, knowing more, learning more, connecting more. It's just that type of energy. In other places, it's hard because that shell has kind of been put on, but really just encourage yourself to go out there and just learn, connect. And I know, again, it just sounds so simple because it is. And that's what our brain is just like, well, it doesn't make sense. It's just so simple. And then we complicate it. And then we create thoughts. And then we create the whole situation that doesn't allow us to actually move forward with what we want to do.
Yeah, complicating. That's a good comment as far as what we do. I want to see if I got any questions here. I'm going to look at the Q&A. Here, I'm on screen here. Investment property. not sure if that's a question. It's saying investment property. So you invest in properties, clearly, right?
Yes.
I'm-
So my primary background, I always like to say, I have an engine and I have a passion. So my engine is I'm a commercial real estate developer and investor. So I do everything from land acquisition to the full scale development to the management and sale and lease process. And then we kind of hold on to it for cash flow until we can sell it off to an investor. So everything full scale A to B. And in terms of commercial strip malls, we focus on between 6,000 to 20,000 square feet, single story. So I really like my mom and pop shops, like the liquor stores, pizza shop, doctor's office, pharmacy, those type of tenant profiles. That's just been kind of, and I also like to look at areas that are smaller municipalities outside of larger areas. So in the Alberta area, I'm born and raised in Calgary. I actually am invested more in Airdrie, because Airdrie is one of those cities that's now really connecting with Calgary. It's one of the largest municipalities, and just the traction that it's building with everything in between. I can see a lot of value coming there for the commercial industry. So I've always primarily been commercial. We started residential at the beginning and did some development projects, some infills into duplexes, but really commercial became the game, because it's when you start to understand the commercial game, raising capital. And I always talk about raising capital as when you're raising over $1 million, it's a lot easier than raising under $1 million. And
really?
That's crazy to say, right? Because most people have the exact same reaction. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. But when you're dealing with under $1 million, you're dealing with investors that are very close to their money. That's the 200,000 they have. That's the 500,000 that they have. So they're going to be very cautious on it, and they're going to understand all the risk mitigation and everything that they need to be just completely aware of. Whereas when you're going over $1 million, you're actually really dealing with sophisticated investors. You're dealing with somebody that's really just looking for security, rate of return, and really exit clause if they need it. So if you can sufficiently get those 3 points across to that potential investor, $1 million. I raised $1 million over 2 beers with a gentleman. We're sitting there, we're having a beer. We had one, we started talking. I started telling him about my building, and I was like, yeah, I need another 800,000. Started talking a little bit more. I had the second beer. He calls me up the next morning. He's like, Jay, I got you the 800,000. I liked what you said, because I knew my numbers, of course, and I knew what I was talking about. But he asked me the right questions. I delivered on the right questions. I had 800,000 ready to go. And I said, Bill, it's like, Bill, can you give me $1 million? I was like, then you'd set me up for my tenant improvements and everything. Like, it would be perfect. He's like, Jay, why are you not telling me that, man? He calls me back. He's like, yeah, my lender said, okay, he'll give you the $1 million. Go pay the application fee. $1 million is yours. I took the $1 million, finished the building, and that was that story. But the point of that was understanding, first of all, the connection.
Right.
Meeting him at a bar, kind of sitting there, having a chat with him, getting to know his life, and knowing that his grandkids are coming back home, and really just getting to connect with him. But understanding that it was a sophisticated investor. So that contact turned into a lead. That lead then manifested within 24 hours $1 million, because of what I could actually converse about in that conversation. So it was kind of, it made me really realize that when it comes to this game of real estate and really raising capital and looking at the real estate markets, we need to really just get the fact that there's always going to be a person on the other side of the deal, regardless of the millions and billions and this property or that property and all this kind of stuff. There's just going to be another human being, whether it's a buyer, whether it's a seller. There'll still be a human being on that side. So this is why the core skill set of just getting relationships and building connections with people is far more important than any industry, business, or any other thing that's out there right now that somebody's trying to sell you.
That's so, I love that. And I hope you picked up the tab for those 2 beers, or did you have him pay for those 2 beers?
I took those ones.
All right, good for you. So
he actually owns the building that was his tenant was the restaurant. So
okay.
Let's just be, I got you. I got you.
Good. So we've gone to an event, we've made some contacts.
Yep.
We've done some selfies. That was a Friday night. Now what, Jay? What's our game plan? How do we nurture these people? What do we do?
Grant Cardone says it the best, but follow-up is everything. Out of 72 people that I met that one night at that bar, the follow-up, the 3 hours it took me the next day to follow up and make sure that I sent a customized message to every single person, follow-up is everything. And it's the hardest thing. 80% of people won't close deals because they don't know how to follow up. They interact with somebody once and they think that all of a sudden somebody's supposed to buy something from you. Grant also says 8 to 13 touch points before somebody will purchase from you. So you better get good and you better get creative. So here's some strategies that I'll give you guys right away is be creative. Don't just send a text. Don't just go for a phone call. Get creative. Send a video message. Send an audio message. Grants guys get so creative where they'll send coffee to your office building. They'll send a pizza missing one slice saying, if you want the rest of it, you know who to call. Like little things to be innovative on follow-ups. If you think somebody's a potential, don't be afraid to spend money for acquisition. Starbucks does something very, very cool that I learned, and they create something called a customer lifetime value. So they take the average order of someone, the lifetime that they'll be with it, they plug in all the different formulas and all the numbers into it, and at the end, it spits out a number. And that number is what a customer lifetime value is. So they evaluate each customer being $24,830. $24,830. So if they look at it from their perspective, they say, how much am I willing to spend to get that one client now? That's why their branding is so aggressive. That's why their marketing is phenomenal. That's why they've created that exposure and that type of why I get to walk in and say grande to feel better versus just saying small or large. They've done things in ways, in innovative ways that have created that type of energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. So now you've got 72 people you followed up with. They're unique. And I know the struggle is real to continue to come up with reasons to call people, right? 8 to 13 touches. I mean, I've heard that stat. Yeah, anywhere from 8 to 13, 15 before anything happens. Why do we fall off that follow-up process after 2 or 3 calls? What is it? What's the biggest factor that's causing us to just pump the brakes and say,
actually, you know what? I can say discipline, I can say consistency, I can say perseverance, I can say whatever it is. The point behind that, though, becomes it's that fear of rejection. It's that fear that we're going to create in our heads again. It's going to be like, well, I've reached out 3 days in a row and they haven't called me back. Like, I think I'm going to be annoying now if I call again. I think maybe, do you think it's going to be annoying to not put food on your table for your kids? That's not going to be annoying, is it now? So now when we start to channel off, again, different types of emotions, saying like, I need to follow up with this person because this person is ideal for what I can provide value to. So it's my obligation and responsibility to continue following up. If they turn around and say, okay, listen, you've called me 6 times in 6 days, I'm clearly not interested, please do not call me back. I completely agree. I will take ownership for that. I will acknowledge that, and I will make note of that. Thank you so much. Have a great day. But until that point happens, don't overthink it. One guy, I was following up with him. I followed up with him for 2 weeks. We had a really great conversation. He wanted to take my personal coaching, right? And it's a high ticket. It's $25,000 is what I charge for my private coaching. And he was on board with it, ready to go. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to get my check cleared, in 2 days, and I'm ready for it. Perfect. Sounds good. Completely ghosted. Called him the next day. Called him the next day. Literally I think it was about 10 days straight. Phone call, text message, audio message, video message, giving him value add. I sent him a little gift thing. I sent him a PDF so that he could read it. It was just about something about the brain. I kept going. Still no response. And I'm like, what? That's interesting, right? Most people would have given up. He calls me back. He's like, Jay, I'm so sorry that I never got back to you. I've been in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
He's like, I didn't even have my phone. I didn't have anything going. I'm so sorry he's like, but I just went through all of your messages. He's like, dude, you were checking in on me every single day. He's like, even my mom wasn't doing that. You know what I mean? And he's just like, dude, like, he's like, forget about like whatever we were talking about, man. I just want to be close to you, man. I just want to work with you, bro. So whatever package it is, like, sign me up, bro. And no objection or nothing, because he was buying the why now. He saw the caring, the effort that I was willing to put. The excuses we give to people for the way that we purchase is what our potential clients give us. I learned this the hard way when I was always like, I've managed 5 different companies, I have teams, I have all this. Oh, I'm so busy. I can't take this. I too much, just too busy at the moment. All of a sudden, my potential clients, what are they saying to me? Jay, I'm just too busy at the moment. I don't have time for the coaching right now. I don't have time. And I was like, that's crazy. So you got to be careful with the excuses that we use sometimes, because it comes back at us.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like, for what I'm hearing, Jay, with what you just shared, the reason we're making the call needs to be so strong that the thought of not making that call would be to our detriment. I mean, it has, I need to make this call. Like you said, and that's what I'm hearing right now, is that message, if you haven't heard it, is that I'm making this call because this is the way I do put food on the table. I'm making this call because it's going to get me one step further, one step ahead, one step closer to some of my goals, right, that I have for my family, some of the goals that I have personally, right?
And that's why people talk about their why, purpose, their life calling, however you want to label it. You have to have a burning desire. And that's not easily created. We don't just wake up and be like, okay, now I know my purpose for today. Like it's not like that, but it's taking the time and effort to work on that. That's why I feel coaching and mentorship is so powerful and so unique nowadays, to make it customized for who is actually, that's why I do my one-on-ones, because discovering your purpose, that true inner burning desire, is what's going to fuel you among all the face value stuff that we think is going to come to us. That's why I said at the beginning, I was like, people say money is everything because they think money is going to solve all the problems and make them happy. When you have all the money in the world, you're like, no, it's actually not money. It's actually time. Like time is everything. But when you have money and time, what are you going to do if there's nobody there? That's why I say people are everything.
Right. Right. Jake, I don't know if for those of you that want to connect in the future, if we can get Jake, can you put Jay's website or how to get a hold of you?
That's where it'd be just jdahan.com.
There you go.
Yeah. Perfect.
Before we wrap it up, it's 11:47. Close it out for us, Jay. What's something that we should walk away with? And really good stuff. I appreciate you being on this call. I really appreciate it. Some good stuff here.
Thank you for having me, honestly. And I'll leave you guys with this is, in this world we live in this digital world we live in, technology needs to be an asset, not a weakness. So start to understand that connecting with people, building relationships, and really authentically acting in the world, the authenticity in yourself, is going to be the most powerful and purest thing that you do that will manifest into those things that you want to acquire when it comes to money, when it comes to new deals, when it comes to clients, whatever those face value intentions are that you think is the intent. Get deeper, start peeling those onion layers off to get what the core belief is. And I always use this with my clients, and I'm going to give you guys this just at the end here, is one quick way to really understand what your purpose and your why is. Picture your ideal day. Picture a day where all the money is in your hands. You're getting paid $50,000 a month for the rest of your life. You got the houses, cars, clothes, whatever. But how do you wake up? When you wake up, you open up your eyes. Who are you laying next to? You go up to your doors. You open them up. What are you looking at? Is it a mountain scene? Is it an ocean? Is it a cityscape? You go downstairs. Is there little rugrats running around? Cats and dogs playing? Is your spouse making breakfast? You get ready. What are you putting on? Is it a suit? Is it a tracksuit? Is it, you get into your vehicle. Is it a car, SUV, Lamborghini, Honda Civic? Start to imagine that lifestyle. So when you're going to your day-to-day now for that 8-hour shift, and you're coming back to either pick up the kids from school or to meet wifey for a date night or to see the boys for, boys night. And then you're coming back home and you lay in your bed and you say, today was a phenomenal day. Tomorrow's going to be even better. When you can map that out and create a vivid picture to what that is, that'll fuel you way beyond all the face value. That'll get you up, that'll make you follow up, that'll make you want to connect, that'll actually get you in action because you can see the result and you know that it's getting closer and closer with the uncomfortableness that you're going to have to put yourself through. So for all those that are watching, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for LabCoatAgents for hosting me and having me on this call. I really pray that I've given some value on this call, and I would love to, any other value that I can create in this world. That's why I'm here, to inspire and empower the next generation and the people in this world now to make a better tomorrow. So thank you, Alvin. Thank you, team. And I hope to be back soon.
Thanks, Jay. Loved it. Look forward to seeing you again. And LabCoatAgents, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you guys took some good notes. I know I did. I've got some great takeaways. So thank you, Jay. Have an amazing rest of, Thanksgiving's rolling up, and have an amazing Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Happy holidays. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.